Hello, hello, hello. This is Chris Ferdinandi from GoMakeThings.com. And today we're going to be building a custom web component, one that uses the WebShare API to trigger the OS native share modal. If we jump over to the browser for just a sec, you can see I've got a button. And when I click it, it pops open the operating system native share dialog. This is what it looks like on Mac OS, but depending on your operating system, it might look a little bit different because it is OS native. This one is not currently wired up as a web component. I'm just using the very basic Share API, but we're going to build this thing out and make it into a custom web component with a lot of different options and settings so it can be reused in a lot of different applications. This video and others like it are made possible thanks to the generous support of my Go Make Things members. A recurring membership helps me create more videos like this and also get you some cool perks. Join or learn more at gomakethings.com/join. Digging into the HTML for a second, you can see that I have a button wrapped in a Share Me custom element. And we're going to turn this custom element into a web component. But what I like about this approach is that it gives you a lot of flexibility over how the content that is kind of building off of it is handled. So if I have a style sheet that just styles native button elements, I'm all set. If I need classes, right, like button primary, I can add those. In this case, share this doesn't really say much about what you're actually sharing. So I might want to add an ARIA label that says share a link to gomakethings.com so that people who are using screen readers have a little bit more information about what's actually being shared without changing the visual style of the button. But it just gives you a ton of flexibility over how you're actually configuring this thing. So I'll leave this saved for now. And we will jump over to the actual JavaScript, so the share wc.js. So in here right now, I have a trigger share function that runs the navigator share method. So when you click this, it is going to trigger navigator share, which accepts an object of options. All of them are optional, but if you don't provide anything, there's not really much to share. So you can include a title, a URL, and some text. None of them are really required. But again, you need at least one thing or there's really nothing to share. The share API is asynchronous. So I have made trigger share an asynchronous function and I'm awaiting it. And I've also wrapped the whole thing in try and catch so that if something goes wrong, we can log an error to the console and it won't send the entire thing crashing down. And for right now, I'm just grabbing the button and I've added an event listener that triggers that function. We don't actually have a web component set up, but let's fix that. So I'm going to jump over to my Go Make Things membership portal. And inside the toolkit section, I have a whole bunch of boilerplates, but one that I use all the time is for web components. So I'm just going to snag this whole thing and I'm going to jump in here and we can wipe this part out. I'm going to paste this in. We don't need the label. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the custom element that's defined. It's share me. I've got my class that extends the HTML element class, and then I've got a constructor, and this is where all of the instantiation happens. So we're using an HTML web component. We don't need to inject any HTML. We do want to get the button. So I've already got that handled. We are going to add an event listener. So I'll leave that here for right now because we do want to listen for clicks. And you notice this is passing in this. It's passing in the instance. So with the add event listener method, you can pass in a function, but if you pass in an object and that object has a handle event method on it, that method will run whenever the event is called and it will automatically receive the event as an argument. And this is really handy in a class object because it allows you to run that event and still have access to all of your instance properties without having to use like the bind hack or arrow functions in weird ways. So this is just a really, really nice way to approach things. So we're going to leave this here. Right now, we're not doing much of anything. And all of this stuff, connected callback, disconnected, attribute changes, we don't need any of that for right now. So we can get rid of all of that. The only other thing I'm going to do is I am going to bring in my trigger share function, and we are going to need that. We don't need function because it's just going to be a method. It's still asynchronous. So we'll bring this in here to clean up the script a little bit. And if I were to jump over to the browser and open up the console, let's beef this up just a little bit. If I click share this, you can see clicked event ran, it was on the button. So our event handler is working. So let's go ahead and actually wire this thing up. So the very first thing we're gonna need, so I don't want these passed in as arguments. I want them to be properties. So we're going to say this title. Here, let's actually do this. Let's go share settings. So this title equals go make things. I'm gonna hardwire these for now, but when we're done, we're gonna want them to be configurable, right? So this URL equals https://gomakethings.com, and this text equals an awesome website. And now inside here, we can do away with all of this, and we can just pass in. Let's actually do this. Let's go let equal. Do I want to do this? Yeah, I guess I maybe do. Here we go. So we'll destructure these. So on this, title, URL, and text are going to be properties. We'll get them all, and we'll just pass them in. So let's see if this actually works. No, it didn't. Let's see why. Oh, right, because I'm not actually running it. So inside handle event, there we go. So this trigger share, we're going to run that. We actually don't even need the event object on this one because we're not going to use it. Okay, cool. So invalid state, an earlier share has not been completed. All right, let's reload. Boom. And then if I did something with this, I'm assuming it would work, but I'm getting an aborted message because I canceled it. We don't need to do anything with that. We're just catching it. So no big deal. So we've got our basic share functionality set up, but these things, we don't really want to hard code them. We want them to be options. So the way you do that, this is what I love about web components is I don't have to, like normally if this was a library, I would have to do something like new share and then pass in some selector for the element and then some options, right? Things I want to share. Like I'd have to do title, URL, just pass those in as arguments. But with web components, I don't have to do any of that. They automatically instantiate and I can just pass in my options as attributes. So we're going to go with title equals, and we're going to say go make things. Or actually, let's say GMT membership. We're going to switch this up. The URL is going to be here, I'm going to cheat. Excuse me. I've got a little shortcut there. I don't feel like typing it up. And text is join today. And back in our web component, instead of using these defaults, we're going to get them off the element. So this operator inside a web component is weird. So this simultaneously refers to the class instance and the element on which it's instantiated. So to get the title, I'm going to say get attribute title. And I'm going to do this for each of these. So I'm going to use the get attribute method. So this with the get attribute method, it's referring to the element. So this get attribute URL, and again, get attribute, and then this one is the text. Yeah, so let's go ahead and jump back over and try this now. So go make things members.gomakethings.com. You can note it. You'll see here that the text doesn't always show up. So a lot of it will depend on where you share to. what actually surfaces. One thing I do want to see, so if I don't include a URL, so if I comment this out, not that way, this way, will I get an error? Nope, it works. So plain text, really interesting actually. So let's see here. Yeah, so this will return as null. What if I omit a title or a URL rather? What's going to happen? Okay, so it's did I not reload that? Let's see here. Yeah, so with the URL it's fine. With title and text it's also fine. Yeah, cool. All right, so they're all optional. I just kind of wanted to see what was going to happen. So we've got the basics working here. So that is great. The next thing we want to do is I actually have a list of notes here. So let's go check. There we go. Cool. Those are little, just if you're wondering what that is, I have little Alfred shortcuts for dropping URLs and emojis and things like that. So this is done. Next up, we want to change the button text and screen reader text on success. So let me add some space so we can group these sorts of things. So once this is successfully shared, we need a way to indicate to the user that the thing has been shared. So we've got our default text, but let's say on success button, and we'll go like that, shared, and then on success, I don't want to call it screen reader or message. Yeah, we'll go screen reader. And so for this one, we're going to say shared the link. Just so there's just a little bit more information about kind of what happened. And let's see. So these are configurable. And we'll do this now, right? So we'll say duration. I'll show you that in a minute. We'll come back to that. So we've got these two. We're going to go back over to our JavaScript. So we've got our share settings. We're listening for events. Next up, we're going to say success settings. So the first thing we want to do is original button. So we're going to get the button, and then we're going to get its inner HTML. One other thing I guess we should probably do, so if there's no button, we should return. So we should only run this if we have a button to do things on. I'm going to get the inner HTML. And the reason we're doing this, so what's going to happen, we're saving the existing content. When this is shared, we're going to change what's shown here. And then after a few seconds, we're going to revert it back. So let's go ahead and get this, what do we want to call it? Success button. And we are going to say this get attribute on success button. And if for some reason there's no value provided, we will instead say, we'll just say shared. We'll have some default text for this one. And then this on success, no, not on success, sorry, success screen reader. We'll say this get attribute on success as r, or this success button. So if someone doesn't provide this attribute, we'll fall back to the same text we're using in the button. When the sharing has successfully happened, so we're going to share, or we will say open the share card. And next, we are going to, one other thing we should do. Not all browsers support this. So actually, let's say or. So if there's no button or the navigator share property isn't supported, we're going to bail. So we'll only do this if it's supported. And if not, in fact, we should probably we should probably think about removing the button or hiding it if it's not. So actually, let's do this a little bit differently. Sorry, I kind of jumped back a little bit, right? But so if API not supported, hide and bail. So if no navigator share, we're going to go this set attribute hidden, and then we'll return. Cool. Cool. So we're triggering the share card, and then we're going to say this button inner HTML equals this success button. Okay, so show success message. And after a few seconds, we're going to revert it back. So we'll use set timeout for that. Normally I use just plain old function declarations, but we're going to use an arrow function here so that we can continue to access the instance properties. So we are going to this button inner HTML equals original button, like that. And we're going to do that after, let's say 5 seconds. So 5,000 milliseconds. So revert to original. Now, if we jump over here, share this. Let's see, where do I want to add this? I guess reminders. Cool. Add. Shared. Cool. And then after 5 seconds, that will revert back to share this. So that covers the visible text, but we still need to think about the screen reader experience. So even though the button text has changed, a lot of screen readers won't announce that change. They need something else. They need an ARIA live region. So we are going to add an ARIA live region. So we'll say this notify equals document create element. So we're going to create a div. We are assigning it as an instance property so that we can access it later, the same way that we can access our button. We're going to give it an attribute of role with a value of status. I could have also done ARIA live and polite, but this is a status notification, so the role will handle all of those same behaviors for us. And then we're going to append it to our content. So if we jump back over here and inspect, you'll notice that we now have this div here. It does not have the correct role. Why is that? This notify set attribute. There we go. Role equals status. Cool. So now we have that element in there, and we can add our text to it. So if we scroll back down here, so we are also going to say this notify text content, and we're going to set it to this success screen reader. And when we wipe this out, we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to just turn it into an empty string. If you don't do this, if someone shares it again to someone else or somewhere else, the text won't change and it won't get announced again. So let's jump back in here. Share. Let's add it to reminders. Added. And I can see shared the link and shared. If I had my screen reader on, I'm not going to turn it on because it gets noisy. That would get announced. Now, we probably don't want that showing up visually because we already have the button there. So we can handle that with some CSS. First, I want to hide the button until JavaScript is instantiated. I am doing that using the not pseudo selector and the defined pseudo selector. This automatically applies to all sorts of elements, but with custom elements, the element will not have the defined pseudo selector until the custom elements define method has run on it and instantiated it. So when it's not defined, display none. And then once it is defined, this selector no longer applies and it picks up its normal display property, which by default, it would show up like a span. And then we can target the share me element child element of role equals status. And here I'm using a visually hidden styling. So what this is going to do is it's going to shrink it down to 1 pixel, shift it off screen. So it will not be visibly in the UI, but it's still there in a way that screen readers can access. If I were to use display none on this, the screen readers would just pretend it wasn't in the DOM at all, and they wouldn't announce it. So this hides it, but allows me to continue using it for screen reader purposes. And then we can come over here and we can add a link to share wc.css. And we'll try this again. I'm gonna have to go clear up my reminders when this is all over. So shared, and the element is still there. It's just not showing up in the DOM. I should have had that pulled up beforehand. So we'll do that one more time. Add. Oh, I crashed my browser. Okay, let's open that back up. Here we go. Make this nice and big. Cool. Try that again. Here we go. All right, cool. Shared, reminders, add. Yeah, so you can see this has shared the link text, but it's not showing up in the DOM anywhere. We'll go like this so we can see everything. Cool. All right, so the other thing we talked about doing, we can check these off. Button on success, screen reader on success. We want to adjust the duration. So let's add let's say success duration. Maybe I only want this to stay up for 3 seconds. So we're going to go 3,000 here. So we will, in here, we'll say this duration equals, and we'll go here, we'll go duration time equals this get attribute, and then we will say success duration. So we're going to get the attribute, and then this duration equals, if there's a duration time, we will, oh, you know what we should do? Actually, I'm so sorry. So we're going to parse float. We're going to parse float this. So then we can say number is nan, this duration time. So if duration time is not a number, we will use our default of 5,000. Otherwise, we will use the duration time. And we actually don't need to set this as a property. We can do that. So this will just be a, here, so we'll go duration time settings. Yeah, so because we're only going to access that once, so we will, so just to explain what's happening here, I'm so sorry. So I'm getting the attribute, it's a string. We need it as a number, so I'm going to use parse float to convert my string into a number. If someone didn't provide value, so if this was null, for example, or if they provided a value that wasn't actually a valid number, like ABC, right? This is going to have, this is going to be nan, not a number. So I can use the number is nan function to check if it's not a number. If it's not a number, we'll use our default. If it is a number, we'll use its value instead. And then down here, instead of 5,000, I can just say this duration, and it should change. And actually, let's make this super tight. Let's go 1,000 milliseconds, 1 second. So reload, share this, reminders, add, shared, 1 second, it's back. That's almost certainly too quick in a real world application, but it gives you a sense for how that all works. So we have checked off all of the to-dos here. Let's just make sure we've covered all our bases here. Yeah, that is everything. We've styled it. We've got a safety check in case Navigator Share isn't supported. Yeah, we are in business. This looks like a Pretty successful, relatively basic web component. I recently decided to stop selling expensive courses that most folks can only afford with a corporate training budget and focus on creating more excellent free content, including YouTube videos like this one. A recurring Go Make Things membership helps me create more videos like this and also gets you some cool perks like access to my private Discord community and my personal collection of courses, guides, and code snippets. There are a range of membership levels available, and they all get the same stuff. Even $3 a month helps keep this channel going. You can join or learn more at gomakethings.com/join. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, share it with friends, all that good stuff. It lets YouTube know that you like these videos and helps them spread to more people. I'm going to drop a link to all of the source code from this video down in the description. As always, if you have any questions, comments, things that didn't make sense, things you'd like to see in a future video, please leave a comment below and let me know. I read all of them. I try to respond to every single one that I can. Some of my best ideas for videos have come from suggestions from viewers like you, so I would really, really appreciate it. Yeah, that's it for this week. I will see you next time. Cheers.